Welcome, Red Eyes members. We are talking with Freeman, and we are continuing our interesting conversation about World War III, the weaponization of space, and Barack Obama, and the idea of the image of Barack Hanato. We're going to return to that a little bit later on here in this segment, but I do want to ask you, Freeman, to, I guess, speculate a little bit more about this possibility of how they're bringing in objects, as it were, if in fact we're seeing that this is more than coincidence, as it were. We're seeing these explosions, light shows, sonic booms, what have you, over specific areas at a specific time, and again, very timely. They can seem to be that this is something that is happening at the same point in time where they need some kind of proponent or a catalyst to bring in this idea of weaponization of space. Now, Freeman, do you think that they possibly are using HAARP to attract objects from outer space that are out there, or do you think that this is again a show, a put on, that they're actually firing something here? What's your take on it?
Well, that was my first question when noticing that one in 1999. Was, do we have the ability to hurl meteors at our own planet? You know, are they shooting these off? Do they have some satellite out there that's able to direct these towards us? Because the meteor that went over the HAARP facility was just too perfect. You know, they happened to be testing it as a meteor deflection shield, and then a meteor comes straight at the HAARP facility. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, these coupling with the earthquakes. Some of my thoughts lead to the idea of coupling vibratory waves, of the scalar waves. Now, when we understand HAARP is the high-frequency active auroral research program, which was shooting ultra-low radio frequency waves up into the ionosphere and generating plasma clouds. Now, what happens when you couple these plasma clouds? Because we know that there are more antenna arrays like HAARP around the globe, in Australia and New Zealand, and so the potential of coupling these scalar waves to cause a reaction that then generates these massive flash and sonic booms. And of course, you know, to be sure to note that when Milosevic, when we were first going into the Gulf War, the front page of USA Today said that Milosevic accused the U.S. of using HAARP technologies to cause earthquakes and floods in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. Now, this was front page news. So, you know, and then you go into Benjamin Fulford's stuff and you look into the earthquakes there with China, we start to understand that this is a side effect of this type of scalar weaponry. So when we're seeing these type of attacks, if you want to call it that, these incoming objects that are causing anomalous sonic booms and then earthquakes, we really should be looking towards these type of technologies like HAARP. But whether or not they are actual meteors, no one knows. The astronomers don't know. Yeah. Or if they are just a show being given by this technology coupling scalar waves and causing this type of reaction. We don't know.
It's very difficult. And again, because of this explosion and the consequent lighting up of if it is true that it's an object, the evidence disappears in most cases right there. I mean, okay, we could have some kind of debris falling to the ground, but again, very minute and very difficult to find if so. So, yeah, well, it's an interesting point of view. And again, we could even have a freaking, you know, base up on the moon. If, you know, again, we were talking about this idea in the first segment that we are not prone to utilize the fruits, as it were, of our scientific knowledge, but they are. So at this point, we don't know if they have some kind of base on the moon. They can have devices there where they can shoot stuff at us. We simply don't know. It's a possibility, but it might be a stretch. What do you think, Freeman?
Well, the moon itself is such an anomaly on its own. The mysterious ideas of the moon. You know, many people think that the moon was part of Earth that then was, you know, put out into space. But this just doesn't fit the true story of what's going on, because the moon itself is an anomaly.
Yes.
It's much older than the Earth. The metals that we have found on there are not of the Earth. The moon's age The Earth's age is estimated to be 4.6 billion years, but the moon, the rocks that we got were dated to 5.3 billion years old. So the dust and everything that is another billion years older. So the moon is much older than the Earth. The elements on the surface are unlike what we find on Earth. They do not go along with the materials found on Earth. And the idea of the hollow moon.
Well, there you go. Exactly. I think that's the largest, in a way, anomaly of in itself, because I think that what probably has been the case is that we have had large collisions, and again, this is scientifically out in the open now. Pretty much, they're talking about collisions that happened about 4.5 billion years ago or something like that. We can see the debris fields around here and there, but what is interesting is what you just mentioned, Freeman, the fact that it's hollow. And I think that they did this test when they were shooting, was it a missile or a rocket into the moon, and they were measuring the seismic activity, and the whole moon rang like a bell or something like that, which in a sense proved that the moon probably is hollow. Do you remember that test that they did, Freeman?
Yes, absolutely. There was a Soviet astronomer who was getting into the moonquakes and the 100 of moonquakes that were going on with these gaseous eruptions. Kozvy, I'm horrible with Russian names. But yes, absolutely. They determined that these seismic activities shouldn't be occurring because it doesn't have the same structure as the Earth with volcanic eruptions. Then they determined that the moon's density was 3.34 grams, which is equal to the volume of water, whereas Earth's density is 5.5. Well, what does this mean? The Dr. Gordon MacDonald came in and says that if the astronomical data is correct, then we need to realize that the interior moon of the moon is more hollow than a homogeneous sphere. So, yeah, we have many scientists coming forth saying that the gravitational field does not seem correct, that everything that suggests that the moon is hollow. Now, I was telling you before we went on air that I went to Walt Disney World in Orlando.
Yeah, definitely.
And just a little curious note, first of all, Walt Disney, Freemason from Missouri, hired by J. Edgar Hoover, 33rd degree Freemason, to instill mind pattern programming into children. This was Walt Disney's job. We just did a film on Hannah Montana, and we'll get a little more to her, and all the different products. When you go into Walmart and Target and even the grocery store, the auto parts store, it is just filled with Hannah Montana products. She has everything you could possibly imagine with her face on it. Just showing you the unification of what we consider separate corporations or not separate corporations. And of course, the corporation is another magical act. It does not exist. It's created with the flick of a pen. When you think of Coca-Cola owning all the water in Chiapas, who do you think of when you think of Coca-Cola? Not a person, right? They are not a person. They are an entity that's been crafted.
Absolutely.
Well, so I'm going into Walt Disney World, and next thing I know, they're taking a laser print scan of my finger to enter the park. And then you enter that large ball, the Bucky ball that is the Spaceship Earth, what they call Spaceship Earth, sponsored by Siemens. When you go inside of there, they give you the history of the world, and they tell you how they created language, how the Phoenicians created the sciences that we use, and they give you this whole history of the world of how great they all are for creating these things for us. But as you go along, there's a little computer screen in front of you, and it asks you where you're from, what your favorite things are, and then next thing you know, they take your picture, and you become a character on this cartoon that's playing out in front of you on the computer screen.
Okay.
So within the first 10 minutes of being within Epcot Center, the experimental prototype civilization of tomorrow, they have your entire biometrics.
Okay. Sheesh, my God.
You can couple this with the latest trend that's coming through Zeitgeist movies and Zeitgeist Addendum and the Venus Project, which is in Venus, Florida, which is just below Epcot, and they're trying to build another experimental prototype civilization of tomorrow, and of course attach a theme park to it. And Venus, as if you know my symbolism study, Venus is Lucifer, so we could very much call this the Lucifer Project. And I always wondered why Zeitgeist had so much popularity. Now I know, promoting these Luciferian ideals. But yeah, right outside of that big buckyball, the spaceship Earth, is what they call leave a legacy. And so everyone is having their faces laser etched onto these titanium metal to be left there for all time, so that now they have all the biometrics of everyone that's ever been to this park or was willing to pay the money to have their face put on these metal plates outside of the buckyball. They're gathering all of this data. At the same time, just yesterday in the news, they're saying that they're taking blood samples from every newborn without the parents' consent.
There you go.
These guys have always been into this type of eugenic studies and trying to get this very particular bloodlines ruling and running. And we're going to get in a little deeper of the bloodlines of the royalty and the new elite. It's just too much. Hillary's related to Madonna, Barack is related to George Bush, and Brad Pitt. And I'm starting to wonder if Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie might not be the new Adam and Eve.
Well, yeah, that could be again. Angelina Jolie's member of Council on Foreign Relations. All of this stuff is going on. They're UNICEF, here and there, and. Yeah, very much the whole celebrity bloodline thing is very much running in all this as well. And again, this idea that this is just common people that are, accidentally made it or because of their talent or what have you. They have millions upon millions to choose from. Why is it that just a selected few get in the positions that they're in regards to celebrity? It's not an accident. They're being used for purposes.
This is our new royal elite.
Yes.
Like I was saying that Elvis was shown as a hologram with Celine Dion. Celine Dion is a direct descendant of Hillary Clinton or their relations. Madonna, Celine Dion, and Angelina Jolie are all related to Hillary Clinton. And then Brad Pitt, Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, and George Bush are all related to Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And then guess who's related to John McCain? Britney Spears. I mean, come on.
Okay.
This is getting to be too much.
It's really, really interesting. It's a heck of a story that is unfolding here, as it were. You mentioned, the eugenics plan, and I guess we can tie this together, obviously, then with the Nazi theme here again, and talk a little bit more about the Pope and get into the Vatican as well, right, Freeman?
Absolutely. I mean, are they getting strange here? Things are going very strange with the Vatican. Now, right off of Reuters News, let's just jump with the latest news. Pope warns on new eugenics based on beauty. So the Pope said Saturday that there were signs of this new type of eugenics based on perfection and physical beauty. And this takes us right back to Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie,
Right.
So here is the Pope coming out now saying this is a real threat. Oh, my God, we're doing experimental manipulation and allowing biotechnology to surrender to the will of the strongest. And, of course, he's saying he condemns this genetic engineering of designer babies. But the Vatican's been coming out with all of these amazing stories. The last one was the Pope's astronomer, Jose Gabriel Funes, a Jesuit priest, who came out and said, there are a multiplicity of creatures on Earth, and this suggests that there are other beings created by God beyond it.
Yeah.
And so this Jesuit priest of the Vatican comes out to say that there's no problem with the idea of extraterrestrials and the Bible. We have no problems with this type of correlation, but when he goes on to say that these extraterrestrials most likely didn't suffer original sin. So now what are they setting us up for here? When the Vatican say that the extraterrestrials are beyond us, that they don't